It's a
I
real
need
thing.
to understand the imprisonment that's happening where people are like, I'm the one spending my money, but the person I'm buying from can dictate to me
It's the
It's
what
value
I
of the
do with
thing.
the thing.
It's the value of the thing.
exclusivity.
It's the value of the thing. That is what
Exclusivity.
keeps the
You are
thing the
not
value. That's what
buying
gives the
an
thing the value.
item. You are
I saw a
buying a
Yeah,
video.
it's the
status.
I saw a
perception.
video.
It's
I saw a
actually
video.
perception. How are you guys doing?
I'm
I'm good.
good.
I'm good. Welcome back. And how are you doing?
Good. It's been a while. What's up
How
with
are
you
you doing,
guys? What have
Biola?
you been up to?
Clearly, you want to talk.
Clearly.
I mean, when I
How?
asked how
From
is
where?
David doing, you kind of knew where you're like, hey, nobody's asking about me. Oh.
Are you saying what you because
Okay, Biola, how are you doing? And then Ayo, you tell us how you're doing because I think that's what you really want us to ask. So Biola, what's up with
I've
you?
already said I was okay. I'm doing well. A little bit down with a little bit down with it. Do you see the bags under my eyes, guys? I am not sleeping well. I need to sleep better. My sleeping
Why aren't you
schedule has been
sleeping well?
completely ruined. Basketball, guys. I love basketball too much.
Sorry, I can't feel sorry for you. Okay. Ayo, Biola, how are you doing?
remember
It's
the
funny.
he's the one who said I didn't have anything to say. I've said I'm okay. Then he goes on that. But I
Yeah,
just wanted
tells
to
us
say
he's
that.
not sleeping
But,
well and
but it's
he's
fine.
got bags.
It's
The
fine.
bags are your fault. So
He
like we
showed us
can't
the
feel sorry for
bags.
you.
They are not even Louis. They are made in okay. Let me not say made in countries that there's countries fighting each other now. But
You
it's
know
fine.
what? Speaking of that, sorry, have you seen on TikTok how one country is basically showing all the factories where they make the things, the designer items
I
that are
saw
shipped
it.
to the other country? I'm like, wow,
I'm sorry.
I
okay.
Which
don't know.
country are we saying which country is shipping things to that country?
Please.
Say names.
Uh, well,
We
honestly,
don't
I don't
we
know.
drink water
I
to
don't
mind
know
our
if
business.
the
We
let
sound
me
like
put
a
it this way.
gossip
I don't know if the bigger
magazine
country
or
in
one of those
quotes.
reality shows.
We know who the bigger country is in quotes will win this one, because,
Which one is the bigger
once
There's,
you
country?
I don't know which one is the bigger
no,
country.
no, no.
Please help me.
There's the bigger country and there's the bigger country. The one who started the
Are
fight.
you talking about the better? Are you saying like the better man in this situation? Like, is that what you're trying to
No,
say?
no, 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 no. Okay, let
Okay.
me put the country that started the fight. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if they will
Yes.
win this fight.
Yeah,
That's my
it's I don't
point.
know. It's
I
not
think. I
Because
clear.
think. I think. I think.
once you taste the life of leather, like satin and sleeping in 300 thread count beds, you think you just go back and start inventing and manufacturing
I
things
don't even
again?
think
I
it's
don't
down to.
know. I
I
don't
don't even
know.
think it's down to hand. I think it's down to resources. I think it's down to resources, and I think it's down to price of resources. There is a reason
Mm.
why the other country in this scenario is able to produce what they produce, firstly at a large scale, and secondly for the price that they do it for. There's a reason why people didn't just wake up one day and decided that we want to transport all of the jobs that we have to that
I
other side
agree.
of
We are
to
saying
that
this. I
other side
think we
of
are
the world.
saying the same
Yeah.
thing.
So
Yeah.
I did know the
Mm.
motivation behind starting the war or the not the war,
Of
the
course, of
fight
course, of course.
is to generate income. See, the bottom line is they want to encourage people to come back. However, the way you are going about it and the way things have not been established at home for let's even say that people want to come back. Come back to what? That's the big like do you know how long it's
You
going to
know what
take
this
for
reminds
you
me
to
of?
come back create
You
the
know
kind
what
of
this reminds me of, Ayo? When
Mhm.
people in Nigeria get elected into office and they say, all the people abroad, it's time to come back and build. Build. Come and build your country. And
I'm sure
everybody
that
is
there was
like, wait,
one.
what?
I'm sure there was
From
one
where?
build that came back. I regretted this.
You can't
Anyway,
just come.
let's
You have to. Everything has to be incentivized. That's all.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
let's go to
Yes.
what
No, no, no.
we
They
have to
said, yeah,
do.
that's how I'm saying. Even if they, let's imagine that you are like Apple, right? And somebody incentivizes you to start building your factory in the Midwest, where there's a lot of land, right? Let's even say you build a factory there. Firstly, the cost of your production will be higher. That means the cost of your cell phone will be significantly higher than any of your other competitors. the it's going to take significantly longer for your cell phones to hit the market.
And it's even
It's
the
just so
labor
palatable.
cost as
So
well,
credible.
because remember,
Yeah.
the
That's
cost of labor
amazing.
is just different. The one that
It's
really
just
struck
cheaper.
me,
It's
the
just
one that
cheaper.
struck me is the Hermes Birkin bag, right? So Hermes Birkins, I think the minimum price, I'm not really sure. I think people say it's about 15,000. And this is the
Yeah.
strange
Yeah.
part. You want to spend $15,000 on a bag, you have to sort of apply based on what people have put out there, because
Oh
I've never
yeah.
done
They have
this.
Yes,
to
yes.
call
You
You
don't
you.
have to
No, they
just
have to call you.
apply for the bag, and then they offer
Yeah.
you whichever one they
yeah.
want to offer you, and then you.
Not
So
even
I'm
they
like,
offer
what
you.
nonsense is
Firstly,
that?
they have to lie to you.
Like,
Firstly,
I'm about to
they have to
spend
lie
my
to you.
yeah. I have no. I know before they offer you, it's not even about them liking you. You need to have spent, I think, 40,000
It-
buying other
Yeah.
things in Hermes
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then I
dollars.
think at some point you also have to be recommended by someone who they've already
It has to
like
be
it's like
recommended.
a
They have to
club.
Yeah,
like you.
it's a
Yeah.
whole club. Anyway,
It's just for
anyway.
It
bag.
reminds me of Ferrari. To buy a particular type of Ferrari, you cannot just buy. And if sells their car to you, and you do a particular part of their cars, not all of their cars, but if you do something to their car that they do not like, they will never sell cars to you again. They will revoke all of your Ferrari license. It's a
I
whole thing.
need to understand the imprisonment that's happening where people are like, I'm the one spending my money, but the person I'm buying from can dictate to me
It's the
It's
what
value
I
of the
do with
thing.
the thing.
It's the value of the thing.
exclusivity.
It's the value of the thing. That is what
Exclusivity.
gives the
You are
thing the
not
value. That's
buying
what gives the
an
thing the value.
item. You are
I saw a
buying a
Yeah,
video.
it's the
status.
I saw a
perception.
video.
It's
I saw a
actually
video.
perception. Yeah, like value is in perception. Value is in perception. But this man literally came out and was like, listen, we make these bags with the same leather, less labor cost because our labor cost is cheaper. But it's the same material, same everything.
It's
The
the
only
same
thing
bag.
it
Nobody cares.
doesn't have is the
It's the
logo.
label.
So
Or it's
Nobody
the logo,
yeah,
cares.
yeah.
so you can buy it from us for $1,000. And people were in the comments like, I don't care about the logo. I want it. And he was suggesting, I don't know if this is true, that the bags are actually made there and then they get
Yes,
shipped out to France where the label is put
of
on it.
course.
I don't know if that's
Of
true, but I
course.
was like,
It
but again,
Most
I'm also
likely.
not
it does.
I don't get why people are crazy about the bag, to be honest. Like, I get it, it's quality leather, it's hand stitched and all that jazz. But
It's more of the name. It's more
yeah,
But
it's
it's
the
the
not
trick
it's
here is
name.
that
quality,
if you do
sure,
get,
but
let's even say
it's
you
the
buy the
name.
$1,000 bag, right? And it's the
Mm.
same as the other woman with the $15,000 bag. If you both walk into the same space, nobody cares about your bag. That's the issue. The issue
True.
here is the tag.
And
The tag is all
and the
that
Yeah.
matters
bags
because
and they
for
are
all
seen
we
as
care about,
investments. The prices
it's
never
not
go down.
it's not even the
Mm.
investment aspect of it. The reason why you buy that particular the bag is not more stylish than any other bag. It doesn't do more functions. It doesn't maybe
It's
wears
the
out a
same
little bit
bag. Yeah.
less than the other bags. But the reason why you pay that money and the reason why you buy that particular design and everything is because of the name. The name
Yeah.
gets if you walk into a space, right, and you don't have if you don't have cash on you, and somebody recognizes that bag on you, they will serve you and they will even
Yeah.
take credit
No, of course,
on
of
your
course, of course.
behalf.
It
That
it
is the
can
bag.
add
And if you
it
walk in with your
probably can
$1,000
add
bag,
two
nobody
zeros to your
cares.
bill. Like
Yeah.
when I mean
Exactly.
like if you are creating an invoice, you can charge if they see you with a Hermes bag, you can say
Yeah, that's
no
what people do.
for the same service. So it runs its
Yeah.
So
This
place.
sounds
it
it
does have
sounds like
value. It
we've
means
just given someone the blueprint to be a scammer. Anyway,
it
because
sounds like
now
you gonna it sounds like you to
someone can
present
go
yourself as a
rent a
Hermes bag.
bag. Just
But in all
saying, if you're
honesty,
out there with
Yes.
a real
So
Birkin, you could rent it out to people and let them go do scams and bring the money back. But you didn't hear that from me.
if you want a
you
Birkins, money should not be your problem.
exactly
Yeah,
you shouldn't be renting
you
it
If
own a
now.
money is
Birkin.
That
your
is the point.
problem and you own a Birkin, you see that misplaced priority less
And the
happen.
question is, it's such a
Oh,
mess though. It's such a
Anyway,
mess because
let's go to our topic for today.
yes, please.
Before we talk about bags that I don't think any of us would buy, not because we don't have the money or cannot afford
no,
it.
no,
I'm
it's
sorry.
not
Do you have the
no,
money?
she will buy it. She wants a Ferrari. She will buy it.
What? I've
When she
never
gets
said
to
I
that
want a
level,
Ferrari.
when she
I
gets
have
to that level,
literally never said I want
okay,
a
so what car
Ferrari.
so what car did you say you
I've
wanted?
literally never said that. I've
You
never
said
said
you
I want a
wanted a
Amazing.
sport
Ferrari
car. There's a
because
particular sport car
I
that you
would
said you
love,
wanted.
do you know what? Yeah, I would love to drive one just for the experience of it. But because I've been in those go karts, you know, the posh race course in Midrand. in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one where you can go and do like a real go-kart race. It's
Yeah.
really low. And I feel like if I'm sitting in a sports car, it's exactly the same thing. I'm like, this is not
No, it's
comfortable.
not.
Like, you're like
No, it's
this.
It's
It's
not.
not.
not
It's wait, wait,
comfy.
wait. It's not
No,
as
it's not. You
low.
can't
Wait,
use a
wait, wait.
go-kart
Ayo,
for a car
it's not as
that
low
has
as a
cost
go
half a
kart,
million
but it is
dollars.
No, it's
low.
not as low. No, I'm not saying it's that low. I'm just saying compared to other
Your
cars, like
standard
a lot of
car
sports
No.
cars are low. And so I'm like,
for
but I would love to
aerodynamics,
try
man.
it. I'd love to try it. I've
Yeah.
never been in one. I'd like to try it.
Okay. Okay. Can I say something here? Please,
Yeah.
please, so that people will not think that we are that we have issues as a group. So that people can actually listen to us. Never compare experience of a go-kart to what it could possibly be a Ferrari. I'm begging you. I don't want people
No,
to listen. People
you don't get.
don't really watch us. They don't want people to use us as an example. You know those people that be talking now. There's this guy that follow on TikTok. He gives us like this clip of this podcast. There was a guy that said that water is a scam, and water actually
Uh,
dehydrates you. Like what's what I'm looking for? Anyway,
Dehydrates
point
you.
here is yes, that water actually
yeah.
like
I've seen that. I've seen
you
that.
know, I
Yeah.
don't want to appear there because they will
No,
not only
that's
show
not what
your
I
face,
mean.
they will show the other people that is interviewing them also. They will show.
That's not what I mean. Obviously, it's not the same as a go kart, as a cart, like
Yeah, I
a
get what
racing
you're
cart,
saying.
but it's lower than what
Lower
I'm
than
like
your
a
average
regular
car.
car.
Trust me,
So I'm
you
always
will
like,
even
geez,
love the
it must
low.
be.
You will even love the low
Yeah,
just because of the power that you get, just because of the
I
feeling on
do.
your hands,
I want
and
to
also how
try
big
it.
it is. Most sports cars are massive in terms of size and weight for a reason because of the
Yeah.
engines and everything. So
Oh,
trust me,
yeah. I'd
you
like to
will love
try
it.
it. I'd like to try
Yeah,
it.
you can
Anyway,
try
so
it with
our
your
book.
brethren.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
sure.
think this is our last episode on the success series, and
Mm-hmm.
we're reviewing the book Outliers.
Yeah.
Right.
What did you guys
So
think?
yeah. Um. So
I
Ayo, I think let's start with you.
Yeah. Okay. So, firstly, this book is incredibly well done. Obviously, like I'm sure that there'll be another book out there that does the exact opposite. But one thing I've come to realize about books that yeah, I actually
What do
believe
you mean a
so
book that
because
does the opposite?
I'm
no,
not
no, because
disputing. I'm just wondering
this book
where
takes
is that coming from? Where is
Why
that
are
going
you
to?
no,
dragging a random book without a
no.
title that we don't even know?
This book takes a look at success from outside of the influence of of an individual essentially, right? It recognizes that there is an individualism to success. However, it's more of your fact. It takes in more of the factor of the environment, timing, culture, experience, all of those
Opportunities.
stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly, as in that is what makes successful people successful. And I can see somebody writing a book and giving as well detailed examples, scenarios, and history as to why success is just a what's the word is a success
Like
is
an
a result
intrinsic trait. Oh,
a result of the person being individualistic, right? Like you can take somebody like Great Joy or not even Great Joy the Joy guy
Great
or
joy.
Bill Gates
who
or
isn't
the
Greyjoy in Game of
Rockefeller.
Thrones?
No, no, I
Yeah,
mean there's a guy in the book that was called Joy that started was the
Bill
Silicon Valley guy.
Joy.
Bill Joy.
Bill
Yeah,
Joy,
Bill Joy.
yes, yes. I went to check. It doesn't. It was over 2 weeks ago. Don't judge me. Anyways, the Rockefeller guys and all of those guys, and be like, hey, I can take. You see how the kind of disconstruct their lives, as in took explained why how they became successful. Okay, the reason why I went on that long tangent was essentially just to say I liked how research it was. I liked how it connected different things. Like example, rice to mathematics. That was beautiful. The
Hmm.
Jewish heritage and
Oh
how
yeah.
um, just the little things that people do not notice. How opportunities can arise because of timing, and how he connected timing to rich people and success, and now even me, I've kind of missed like my younger brother, right? Just thinking about it, right? My younger brother is about 7 or so years younger than me, right? And he was in perfect line to this whole software self software like AI, okay, not fully AI, but Python, all of this machine learning stuff.
IT.
He
Yeah, like
was
all
right
the
in that
yeah.
timeline. My timeline
Hmm.
was more. engineering and stuff. And it kind of
Mm-hmm.
you see how that just kind of overlaps. And it's like these little things. If you are born 3 years ahead, it what but the reason why I actually really enjoyed the book was it didn't feel like I was reading something that wasn't well done in a way. The biggest thing I can say about the book is the way they take little stories like the Irish, not the Irish settlers in the United States, and now he must have done an incredible amount of research. He must have spoken to a bunch of people. I'm sure that finding out details about a bunch of people wouldn't have been easy, especially like going back and seeing how far it went and
Mm-hmm.
and in time and blah 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 and blah. So I really appreciated that. And it's a really beautiful book to read. I really enjoyed it, and it explains a lot. Uh, Obviously, it's kind of it's not like it's not impossible to apply to your current life, but I think what I really appreciate about it is like going forward, what I can take from it is how I for one I take it as an encouragement. As in like this is where you are, this is how you get like it kind of allows you to see things from a different perspective about your own personal life, right? This is where
Mm-hmm.
you are. This is some of the situations that have gotten you here. Now, how can you choose to go forward based on this information that you have? How can you reaccess everything? How do you deal with authorities? Like how do you deal with that's the most basic things. It was a really beautiful book and I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you for recommending it. I'm sure when you read it the second time around, you were even like, oh no, it's so good. I wish I can
I
meet this
loved
man.
it. I was reading it on my trip, on my work trip to Montreal last week, and I was traveling with the CEO. So he was also reading the book, and I was telling him, "Oh, I'd like for you to read this book." And as I started to get to the end, the very last chapter, we were getting close to Ottawa because we're traveling back. And I was like, I'm going to make sure I finish it because I want to hand it to him to read because he's never read it. And I'm expecting that when he reads it, it would be a mind blowing experience for him. Like, wow. So, yep, I loved it again, second time around. Biola, what did you think?
I think Aya has elaborately and with many words explained that it's a great book. I don't think it's a good book, it's a great book. And I feel like if you read it with an open mind, it will like open your mind to a lot of things. And there's just a lot of things to factor and consider when it comes to being successful. I think there are some things that are out of your reach, like out of your hands, and some things are like in your hands
Mm.
also. And it's a combination of these factors that can make you successful, what we call successful anyway. And yeah, just my first thing about the book is that I love it and I will read it again, right? And I would definitely recommend it to anyone out there.
No,
If we're doing our
actually,
star system, that's a 5-star book.
I actually wanted to recommend it to my
It's
dad.
What?
I know that my dad
I
Wait,
watches.
think
what stood out?
what I want to say is this in conclusion, sorry
Mm.
guys, is a lot of people will see that book and think it's a motivational book, but it's not a motivational book.
It's not.
It's a
It's not. It
it's
doesn't
a
motivate you to
it's
do
a
nothing.
deeply analytical book, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it will open your mind. So yeah.
What stood out for you guys the most in the book?
For me, and this is quite interesting, is I'm thinking about the next generation now. Let's say, how will I raise my kid? Because it's quite an interesting book, right? Because for if you choose to go one way, you are losing something. While the book was focused on success and it did not exactly dive very much into what you will eventually lose when you take away some aspect of like let's say the way the rich parents raise their kids to be
Mm.
they have a bit of arrogancy, they can speak up for themselves, they are always preoccupied with something, they give them the tools to their life at a young age, rather than the poor parents who live their life through their kids in a way, right? All of this is there, right? And then let's take an example of like the Asian definitely, if I have a choice, I will raise my kids Asian to learn mathematics. But then there are also aspects of that Asian culture where they are less. they don't fight authority as much. They don't
Mm,
they there is no rebellion. Like so there is a lot to take into it. It's like when you go with this particular culture, you lose a bit of this. But then when you go with this particular, you lose a bit. So it's a question of like how do you balance it? And even in that balance, what are you willing to lose? Essentially
mm,
that is what is asked. What are you willing to lose? And how would you cultivate that? And it's interesting is even when you do have your kids, would you even know that you're losing this in a way? As much as we all want to like take a, well, we cannot take like a best eye view of our life. You know what they say: the closer you are to something, the less you can see because you are
mm,
magnified into a particular aspect of life. But I think that's what I take away from it the most is like while there is things you can, it depends on the kind of family you want to raise also the kind of kids you want to have. Obviously we want the best for our kids, but I remember Biola sent a video to the group the other day. Sorry, I have a running nose. Sent a video to the group the other day, and it was about this Nigerian guy talking about how Nigerian parents tend to live to their kids and doesn't afford them the ability to make mistakes. And if you go
mm.
via the Asian culture route, there is probably less opportunity for their kids to make mistakes, but there's also less opportunity for them to become something else in a way, if that makes sense. But there is so much beauty in also what they do and the structure that they give, the ability to work hard, the insistence on certain things. So all I'm going to say is that it's a lot, and and somebody once said right. Uh, this is a thinker. We always what is for an overthinker? What's left than just thinking? Sometimes you can be crippled and paralyzed by all of the choices and the ability and the constant need to think things through in a way where you want the
Mm,
best out of every situation, but it's impossible. You can't
mm,
maximize and just like life, just like petrol, just like anything in life, there's no 100% efficiency to anything. So you just give and take. It's what is most
mm.
important to you is your idea of success at the end of the day. So I just think that that's very
I think the question was my like biggest takeaway, right? And I think for me is the place of family and community and how that can affect you positively, negatively, even with your inborn skills. I remember the guy in the book, I can't remember his name now, the guy who and he was compared to Oppenheimer and how he said he's the most like he doesn't know anyone that is as brilliant as him. I think it's Hagen or something, I can't remember. Or Logan. And but because of how he was raised and how he had to fight so many things, he's just apprehensive of authority and the government and all. While Oppenheimer did a lot of like remember he poisoned someone and all that, but because he could talk, because he could sell himself, and that was because of how he was raised. His parents, like how he was raised, they were not even rich. That's another thing. So it's not even I think it's the mindset of the parents. And for me, that was like the biggest takeaway
they
from
were
it
not
is
rich, but they were better off. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
They were
so the
significantly better
point.
off.
No, no, the point is this, it's the mindset because they talked about how like even when they were still rising, right, they would take their kids to the what's the name of the hall to go and watch shows and they would bribe somebody to get in because they could not actually pay the Carnegie
Mm.
Hall. They couldn't pay the fee, but they would find a way to get their kids in and it was just to expose them.
Yeah, I think what I took out of it, like again, this is the second time I'm reading this book. So first time I read it, I was like, wow, this is amazing. It didn't motivate me, but it made me aware of where I might have privileges and where I have disadvantages. And
Ooh.
so like it was just a sense of like, how do I navigate and what are the things that I can possibly leverage to circumvent some of those disadvantages?
Can you
And
give
I
us an
think one
example?
of the things that people underestimate is your ability to communicate clearly. That even if you're shaking inside and you're not feeling confident, but you have
True.
trained yourself to communicate clearly, I think that really works in your favor. A lot of people, for example, when they're communicating, they're very hesitant. They know their stuff, but there's a lot of and and it depends on what you're talking to, right? They might be like,
True.
okay, I have patience for this, oh, I don't. And so being able to be like, here's what I need, and coming across as competent, even if you don't really feel like it, I think is a really good skill to have. And I think it is something that a lot of people can learn. But a lot of people are not aware they can learn it because,
You can
again, they
learn
just
it.
say, I can't do it. And so they live it. They think it's an intrinsic thing. But being able to make yourself
True.
that way, being able to have small talk with people, even if they're in stations higher than you, is a good thing to be able to do. But I will say, it is. I will say, like, even though I wasn't raised in a wealthy family, my family was wealth adjacent in the sense that a lot of my relatives were wealthier than us. And you could see how they related with the world. And that sort of has an impact on you as well. So I think being wealth adjacent is not the worst thing. Like, it does help in a way. That's one thing that stood out for me.
Like I also did a lot of analysis of how like what is middle class in America and what is middle class in Nigeria is totally
Mm,
different. Even
yeah.
even mostly people, even people from very rich families in Nigeria, right? Parents tend to raise their kids not to speak to authority.
Hmm.
So it is not even a wealth thing because in America, like the wealthier you are,
It's a
the more
culture thing.
like parents raised kids to talk back, speak to the doctor. But in Nigeria, whether poor or rich, they
Mm,
will smack you. Maybe few people didn't have that, but most people, that's how they were raised,
the
irrespective of the
culture.
wealth class, because it's a
Yeah.
culture thing. And that for me just like yeah,
I agree with you to a certain extent. However, even within that particular parameters of maybe they might smack you while talking to adults, there is still so much more that you're exposed to while you are in that particular environment, rather than a kid that is poor and his parents are daunting
no
on
no,
him. Be patient.
Ayo,
Like I said, I understand where you're coming from. I just want to give my perspective of what you said. So I'm not disputing what you said. I'm just giving the perspective. While for middle class might be different, middle class is different for everywhere. While middle class is different in China, it's also different in the US, it's also different in Nigeria. However, the benefits of middle class is still same, is still across the vein. That is why it's called middle class. It might not reflect in the culture elsewhere. However, still is still more beneficial when you still transition from that culture to another culture, if that makes sense. If you're middle class in Nigeria and you ultimately travel to the United States, the mindset and the ideas and the way you grow up will still benefit you more, and there's a higher chance of you being successful than if you are poor in Nigeria than when you go to America. You can still
I think,
overcome it. However, you will still have those limitations are still bounded by those limitations. That's what I'm trying
no,
to say.
yeah.
I'm not. No, I totally. Of course, it is always better if you grow up as a middle class or if wealthy than poor. So that I was just saying that like it seems like it's a cultural thing with Nigeria, irrespective of financial status.
Oh
That
yeah, that's yeah.
speaking to authority is just seen as no, you're not. Don't do this. That kind of
That's
thing.
what the
That's what I
pilot
was trying
example
to.
was for.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah.
what the pilot example was
Yeah.
essentially saying.
That
Yeah, it
pilot
was.
one was really interesting to me, especially when he started talking about how like they perceive the New York control tower, like the communication that comes out from there. To them, they're seeing it as, oh, this person is angry, right? Like instead of saying, hey, like go to hell, I need to land. And that could have
Yeah.
prevented so many accidents. That was really sad.
Accidents,
I actually
which
Yeah.
think the
is
mathematics one was the best for me. The idea that you can determine people's scores with just questions that has nothing to do with mathematics. I think that is, for me, it goes so much deeper in the sense of like you can essentially it's essentially a character test for your nation. And it sucks because in the general scheme of it, it is incredible how you and these are some of the information that some people are actually privileged to. Imagine this guy, he sat down and he wrote this book, but imagine a whole government that have been dedicated to that have put a bunch of effort into somebody researching other nations. That is what I was thinking while I was reading this book. Just imagine the amount of if a if a country chooses to, they could. How many people could they put? How many people could they assign to other countries around the world? There are what 200. There's now 200 countries in the world. You assign two or three people to each country and ask them to give you as much information that they can gather about that particular country, about some of the things about some of the things that just like their mentality, their culture, how you can use it against them. That was my. I'm sorry. That was what I was thinking about when I was reading that particular aspect
Why
of
were
it.
you having villain thoughts while we
I
were
Not
don't know
really.
reading?
It's
about,
not villain. It's just.
because
It's
I
not
would
villain.
have
It's just
thought
about.
you would say, what can we learn from this culture that we can put into ours to move us forward, not to
No,
use
it's not about
against them.
learn.
But
Imagine you're a word power, right? Imagine you're a word power, and your idea is to grow yourself. Or your idea is to because what we've learned about humanity as a whole is that we're not. Nobody is no. There's never enough. There's always more. Like nobody's sitting there and be like, how can we grow ourselves to be better than we were yesterday? No, it's how can we get acquire more? That is all it has ever been. That's just the truth about the world that we live in. So it's a question of how can I get this country to do what I want? That's
Okay,
just the
so what is your
that's what I
what's
was
the
thinking.
point?
No, the
So
point
you're
is
thinking like with
that was
regards to the
my
map.
no, that was what
Oh,
I was thinking when I was reading that part. I was thinking, do you know how predictable we are at the end of the day, and how much information about us is out there, and how
oh,
we all want to be. We are so special, and we are so unique, and we are so separate, and we are to a certain extent. However, we are also predictable and almost
of
carbon
course.
copies of. And that was what I that was what scared me the most reading and that was my biggest fear reading the book is like somebody can
Oh,
like imagine you go to somewhere, right? Imagine you go somewhere and they ask you where are you from? And you say you are from Canada, but they like originally, like we saw that you were from Nigeria, and they could already predict certain things about you. And obviously those predictions
I
were
think
as
I
no,
think
I was gonna say
that already happens. Like I
I
wanted to
know.
say that like for us even as Nigerians, there are things I don't know, and it might be people just glamorizing being a Nigerian, but there's this sense of like Nigerians typically, even when they don't know what they're doing, come across as confident. Nigerians are very resilient, right? Nigerians persevere a lot. And I think the situation that the similarity rather that I can draw between what he was describing about the Asian culture and math and being Nigerian is that a lot of it is formed in hardship. Like it is formed in people
yeah,
having to go against the grain and really struggling. I don't
right.
think Nigerians appreciate enough, and I don't think in that they should be doing, oh yeah, we're suffering, hallelujah. It's not that, but I don't think people appreciate enough how much that gives you until you leave that vicinity and you go elsewhere and you realize that you are just driven. You want to
Yeah,
get things done. You don't want to sit and
naturally
just
driven. Yeah,
you're naturally driven. You want to achieve things. You don't want to sit and just have warm conversations. There is a disadvantage to it in the sense that in some places you can say that they're very content with life. They're not trying to strive for more. They just enjoy each day as it comes and they're happy. Whereas you as a Nigerian, you're very anxious if by the end of 1 year in that country, you don't have 50% of a house at least.
yeah,
Like Nigerians have that. So the thing when I was reading it, what I was thinking was the similarity I see here is the difficulty of working in a rice paddy and difficulty of waking up in Lagos at 5 a.m. to get to somewhere that starts at 8.
eight.
Like
Yeah,
nobody, and in Nigeria, a lot of things are not automated. So you do a lot of things by hand,
by
right?
hand.
You want to cook. How long does it take to cook a typical Nigerian meal? You genuinely have to want to eat that thing and love it for you to do it. And
Oh,
because
don't want to
Nigerians
die.
are Oh, you don't want to die.
That's just it.
Exactly. And that's
Yes.
the same as the rice farmer. They don't want to die. They
Yeah.
want to be able to have a good harvest. So they nurture the
So
thing. Nigerians are pretty much the same. But I think, and this is my thought, I don't know that this is true. I think the reason Nigerians have a bad rap and nobody really talks about all these other good qualities a lot is because it's an African nation. The way people fetishize Asian brilliance and all of that, they hardly do the same for Nigeria. But if you were to go to the US, it would be, I think, in most of the places I've seen, it would be difficult to go to a hospital, except that hospital is
not finding
in the middle of,
Nigeria.
and not find a Nigerian doctor or surgeon. Like it's so
See,
hard.
you know what? If you
But
don't,
nobody
if
talks
in
about it.
Demi, if there are like three hospitals you don't find in Nigeria, that city, something is wrong with that city.
It's
But
so
then,
like I feel like
but I
we have
think,
quite a lot that is that about us that is quite
True.
similar to that,
but
but
yeah,
maybe we also have other issues.
sorry,
Sorry, we also have other issues that is similar to Asian
Of
countries.
course, of
We have
course.
a
Yeah.
high power distance as well. We also don't speak back to authority the same way most Asians
no,
might
no,
not. Like
Generally.
we're very subservient and all of that until you break out of it as a person. But the confidence and the perseverance, when he was writing about that girl who was doing the math problem, and the fact that she sat there and she kept trying to figure it out and she kept that's a Nigerian child's life. When you have all those weird math problems in school that you spend hours trying to figure it out and say X is five, you go and check X is not five. You're like, well, they say X is three. How did they get three? You go back. That's literally your
Yeah.
life.
can I ask, where do you think the deviation occurs? Because when I look at it, right, and one of the prominent discord, or one of the things that Nigerians are known for outside of Nigeria, is we are excluding our extremely, one of the things that Nigerians are known for, that we are very confident, which comes along with us being loud a bit, which comes along with us, like if you travel from if you travel from home and you go elsewhere, you are more prone to be successful. However, we're also known in some parts of the world as being 419s, scammers, for a lack of better word. So where do you think
Mhm.
that deviation occurs? I think it occurs in the level of poverty that we face as a country. And I know that sounds strange. It sounds like Asian
What
countries are
deviation are
particularly
you speaking
rich.
about? Is
Deviation
it the
of like
deviation on reputation?
in reputation, and also
I
not
Ayo,
only reputation, in actual like what we do when we do get there. As much as you will see a surgeon, a Nigerian surgeon in almost every hospital in the United States, you will also know that we will see a bunch of Nigerian criminals
I think
in in some
Ayo,
countries.
the truth is this, like I saw a study on it, and like in terms of percentage, it's not like Nigeria has a higher percentage of criminals. Like in terms of this,
I
there's also just the
agree.
Nigerian size. One, two. Apart from the size, the number also, like there are countries that have way more criminals that don't get that bad rep than Nigeria does. And I think
Yeah.
why that happens is this, is that Nigerians are loud.
Again, I'm not saying that we do not do. I'm not saying. I remember when they released a list recently of people that have been deported from the United States, countries of list of how many people have been deported by country from the United States. Right, Nigeria was quite low on the list, like in terms of people being deported. I'm not saying our reputation is far exceeding our actual what do you call it? I
So
would,
you're
lack
asking
of better
what's
word for
causing
that.
that you're asking what's causing that gap in the reality and the
Yes,
perception.
not only the reality of the
Here's
perception,
Okay.
my
also in the actions. Also, not only that, also in the actions. In the actions being that there is, as much as Asian people are known for almost all of the things that Nigerian people do. Like if you go to a Japanese president, no problem. But there is, I think the deviation is there is just less poverty in Japan, whereas there is more in Nigeria. Hence, they are more prone to go down a particular route. So for every Nigerian success story, let's say every five, there will be one that will be, oh no, he's the guy that was scamming people. He was the guy that ended up in Dubai. That was, like, do you get what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say?
I get what you're trying to say. And yeah, maybe there is some element of that where there's a poverty issue. And so people are
Yeah,
likely to do things more wrongly. And we also have a society that celebrates being ostentatious, showing off your wealth. So
definitely.
that might be a factor in it.
The end
Oh,
But I
that's an
think
justifies
the
the
interesting one. I
other
means.
haven't looked
factor
into that one.
the
The
other
the
factor that
society
we
of
actually don't, yeah, it's societal. The society celebrates
No, it's
wealth,
the
right? Like,
society. The end justifies the means. Like you're
yeah,
rich, we don't. How did you get
that's
there?
it.
I'm not
That's
concerned
not
about
so.
that.
That's the society. So I think that might be
Yes,
where there's a disconnect between what we do generally as a society that links quite closely with what the Asians do. But the other thing I think we don't take into consideration is that our foreign policy is not great. We don't
that's another
have
thing.
a government that advocates on our behalf. Our passport is so bad. Did you see Alma Asinobi, is that her name? Would try to travel, I think
Yes,
73
yes,
hours
yes,
or
yes.
something. And
Yeah.
she was talking about like how her passport just kept holding
She
her back. And
is.
people think
Yeah.
the passport issue is down to, oh, Nigerians are known as criminals. No. Did
No.
you not, didn't we grow up in the time when people used to talk about the Italian mafia? Are the Italians not traveling to wherever they want, regardless of that
There's a
reputation?
lot of Indian like
It does
crime, but their
exactly.
passport is, but there's no effort in, like, I think this is what I will say. Unfortunately, the value the Nigerian government assigns to a Nigerian life is not so high.
There's
I think it's
there
Unfortunately.
aren't.
because they have a lot to replace. They're like, ah, if that one goes, we have a lot at
Yeah,
home.
there's no strong negotiation and representation
Exactly.
of the country
Of the
at an
Isn't that
country.
official
strange?
level
But isn't
It's
that
that strange?
changes
individuals
things.
fighting for the, it's
No, but
individuals
Like
representing the
exactly. But
country.
that's what I'm saying. Isn't that strange? Like we are known as a nation of confidence and can fight for ourselves on an individual level. But when we get into the politics and the official level and the place of where power is supposed to be old and we are supposed to have the like imagine you bring a bunch of confident people together. You expect that as a group to be more confident, wouldn't you? You wouldn't expect it to lose their ability that they bring into the situation. So where did that disconnect? Like where is it that
let me
where
tell
did that
you,
thing? Yeah, go
let me
ahead.
tell you what I think it is. I think it's also because it's a high power distance culture, and a lot of people thrive on keeping that distance high. So if I am able to lift up the people who are beneath me, they're not going to respect me as much. Combine
That's
that
the
with being
that's the thinking.
the thinking. So
Okay.
combine that with being a society that celebrates displays of wealth. What are we going to celebrate if everybody is uplifted? Nothing,
So
because we
so
would all
so
just be chill.
so
So
basically what
If
you're saying
if
is
people,
if
because
yeah,
if
you
if
are not the only one
Nigeria,
with
if
I
Nigeria, Ayo, for example, as in quotes, things are bad in, it's not in quotes, honestly. Things are bad in Nigeria now, right? If imagine if Nigeria had a stronger passport, how many people would have left? Like
no
they
no
would
forget about the
like,
passport.
yeah.
do you get,
Forget about the passport
no,
is a but the
but you
passport is
get
an
my point.
effect of the
I think
situation. I
I'm
get your point.
buttressing
I
Demi's
get your
point
point. But
that
the thing I want to talk about is where is that deviation between the Asian countries and Nigeria? Because we are very similar. The same way they are high powered, the difference is in the high power is similar to them. It's also similar to us.
It's
And
our
where is that?
values.
What is that society? What is that society trait in us that separates us from them? Because their passport is useful. Their government does things for them. Some of their stuff is as it's like
Yeah.
you get what I'm trying to say. That
So you know
trait,
what?
that value, that thing that is so different is what
So
I'm trying to
it's
say.
actually, I'm going to take back the value comment because my understanding of Asian culture is they also celebrate, like, not that they celebrate it, but they highly respect displays of wealth.
successful
So the
people.
wealthy people have like an entourage walking with them. It's all very dramatic. So I don't think it's a value thing. I think it's an official issue that at the top, there is nobody advocating on behalf of Nigerians and negotiating for better foreign policy and access for Nigerians. People love the exclusivity that they have. We have a society where the powerful people have other passports because Nigerian passport is not powerful, and they're like, we don't need to do anything about it. The Japanese passport is really powerful, so they don't even need to
Yeah.
be negotiated. But
Okay.
they maintained that for a long time because they. Let me put it this way, and this is going to be offensive to a lot of
Ooh.
people. The
Okay.
Japanese, in my opinion, and a lot of other Asian countries, and even Singapore, have a strong sense of national pride that is
That's
reflected
it.
at the official
Top.
political class at the top. They want to see their country looking good. They want to compete. They want to win. They want to do well. In Nigeria, we
It's
have
individualistic.
I
exactly
I
like
think it goes
you can have
beyond that.
tribal pride,
I think it
you
goes
can have
beyond that.
tribal pride, but
But
like it might go beyond it. It's just a
where
factor
do you
though.
think we lost that? Where do you think we lost that? Because one of the things that I just realized while you were talking is um there's slavery, there's colonial, colonial, you know the word I'm trying to,
Colonization.
say,
Yeah.
colonization. It's like, where do you think we lost that in a way? Or where do you think this issue, like, because if you think about it, right, the patient, if you think about
I
it, like,
don't.
let's say that we are parallel to each other. Let's say that the Japanese, and this was before this was before society become, well, not society, this was before the world became connected. So let's say that before the world became connected, right? So let's say that we and some aspect of Asians, we all have the same values and culture, and we're all going in a parallel pathway, right? So where do you think that deviation comes in? I think one of the issues is, and is the way that we are viewed in the world, right? And I'm going to come back.
That might
Is
be
I think
racist.
race
Yeah.
is exactly
Yeah.
race is an
Race is a
aspect
big
of it,
issue too. Yeah. Yeah.
and I think it's also how we were colonized. Because one of the things that we really funny is that I'm not vast, I'm not well versed in the Japanese culture, but I know that there was a time when they were invaded by the Chinese, right? If I'm right. I
I
think there
can't
was a time when
remember.
they
I
were
The
know they invaded
Japanese?
Korea.
no, the Japanese, yeah. I think they were invaded by the Chinese at one point in
I
time.
don't think
Or they
so. I
invaded,
don't
No,
I
no,
think,
think
no,
no,
no, no,
no.
Japan
they
was
invaded.
ever
It was the
No,
other
they
colonized.
way
invaded.
around.
Yeah, they invaded they invaded the Chinese at some point in time, right? And I think that's where the deviation start coming into place. It's a situation of like, at one point in time, there was a situation where there was a deviation from for us, whereas for them it wasn't. And I think it is so interesting
I
how history and
for me,
things take effect. I
for
was trying to get
me,
to the core thing. Well, I wasn't trying. I get what you're trying to say, and I get what that means. I'm
you
not
don't know
disagreeing.
what I want to
I was
say.
sorry,
You
sorry,
don't know
sis.
what I want to say now.
Sorry,
What
sorry,
I want to
sorry.
say is that, like, Japan, for example, Singapore, for example, there was a conscious effort by the leadership to build that nationalism where we see
But I
Nigeria
think
never
it goes
had that.
beyond that. I think it goes beyond. I don't
No,
think it
no.
was just.
So,
I don't
There
think
might
people
be
just woke up one
there's
day.
definitely a race
I don't think
factor
it just
to it. There's
every South African and you take an average Nigerian and you ask them things about their country, and now you can tell that they have very different reactions to their country. Yes or no? We've all lived in South Africa
yes,
and we've all lived in Nigeria, and there's a
hmm
different level of pride to that, right? And
yeah.
yes.
so, but ultimately, right, you cannot be like South Africa isn't ultimately rescending in some aspect of their ways, like in terms of the economy is a little bit worse than it was before. They are like, but ultimately,
So,
right,
can
be
I
patient.
answer your
But South
question?
Africa still fighting. So be patient. Let me finish. But like again, calm down. You will say your point. But my thing here is that, man, you can't just be like, oh no, they fight for themselves more than we fight for ourselves. Again, that is obvious. My thing is, we have so many similar traits with all of these people. Where do you think that deviation started? It's not what is the result of the deviation. What you are telling me is the
You
result, not where, not
no.
what social
Oh, yeah,
thing
okay,
separates us.
Ayo,
So now
Ayo,
now
please,
you can talk.
will you listen to me now?
I
So
said now you
first
can
and
talk.
foremost, there was colonialism. Everybody, China was colonized. Japan was no Japan.
The
Okay, Japan didn't
colonizer
really.
for the most
The
part.
colonizer
For the
Yeah.
most
matters
part,
also. The colonizer matters. The result of the colonization
India.
matters.
Okay,
But continue.
India was colonized. Like
By the
this is what I'm
British.
trying. This is what I'm trying to say, right? At some point, okay, let me take the South African example. I don't think Nigeria has had a, even though he kind of gets a bad rep now, Nigeria has not had a leader considered as Mandela, where he put effort into like bringing everybody together. He did the whole reconciliation thing. Nigeria has not had that person who has brought the people together to see us as Nigerians. We've not had that person.
Yeah, we
Singapore
still
has
have
Also
had
is
a
very
person.
different
tribal
from
we have
South Africa.
tribal
But go on.
divisions a lot.
So I'm trying to tell you that colonizers came, things were divided, right? Then Singapore, for example, had that person who brought the country together and said, "Let
Mm,
us see ourselves
we
as one."
did. Yeah, we did.
South Africa had that person who came and said, "Let's see ourselves as one. We are the Rainbow Nation." Nigeria
So
has not had.
so basically what you are saying is, and if I'm getting this right, you need one individual to change a culture or to influence a culture.
It
No,
may
that's
not be
what it
an
is.
individual. It may not be an individual, but there has to be. My point is, there has to be a conscientious effort for the nation to see themselves as together, and
And
Nigeria
that's your
has not
question.
had that yet.
You know one thing I just realized now, when somebody mentioned, I think Bella mentioned India, and I think India is most similar to Nigeria actually, than on the face of it now. Like current India and current Nigeria is more similar to each other than even Asia now. Why we might have more trade with Japan and China, I think ultimately we are more Indian alike. Indian are equally as successful mathematically, although like they're maybe not as inclined as the Chinese people, but their society encourage
They're
hard
very
work,
brilliant.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
and they also travel outside of the country even more, like equally as much as Nigerian and Asian people. And they I think the difference is they develop a more close knit group than we do, significantly more close knit group than we do. However, I think colonialism also affects them as similarly as it does us. Whereas
Mm.
while China might have been colonized, the way that they went about it is different. We were given our freedom. China won back their freedom. They fought back. They were not given in a way. And I think
Mm.
those, and I think, again, my thing is, obviously, none of us has done a deep dive into the Nigerian history and compare it with other
Yeah.
people's history and stuff. But I think there is a thing of like timing. Maybe they found us first by mistake, and now we suffer the repercussion of that. Like,
Yeah.
because to be fair, right, there was no slave that was taken from Asian countries and used to go build America and Europe, whereas
Actually,
they
they
took
were.
from us. Not like us,
They
not like us. I'm not saying that there was no
okay, not
slaves
like
at all taken. Again, even
not like
do you know that
us.
South Korea has the highest percentage of slaves for a long time? But that one was more slave in within South Korea than anything else. But my thing was like we were put on it, like it's just how the world works, right? And I was trying to get to the bottom of it, not the result of it, but it's so beautiful how like so many
Do
factors
you
could
know?
have caused where we end up in the world today. Because I'm
Yeah.
looking at it like the book, it's not just one thing.
Yeah.
It's timing.
A lot of things.
It was probably a mistake by
There's a lot
somebody
of
that was driving that
factors.
ship,
Yeah.
and then maybe it's a celebration of wealth that we saw mirrors. I'd be like, I will like that ship.